On a cold winter evening, beneath the flickering glow of a street lamp, an old man sat on a park bench, his weary eyes lost in thought. A young man, burdened by failure and frustration, approached him and sighed deeply. "Do you believe in fate?" the young man asked. The old man smiled knowingly and began his story, a story that would change the young man's life forever. Aarav was a brilliant but struggling young man from Mumbai. He had spent years chasing his dreams, yet every time he got close to success, fate seemed to pull him back. After years of trying and failing, he had begun to believe that fate was against him. One evening, after yet another job rejection, he sat on his apartment balcony staring at the city lights. His childhood dream had been to become an entrepreneur, to build something meaningful, but life had thrown countless obstacles his way. His father's sudden illness, financial struggles, betrayals by people he trusted. He had started to believe that no matter how hard he worked, fate had already decided his failure. His best friend Kabir often told him, "Fate is not your enemy, Aarav. It is your guide. Trust it." But Aarav had lost faith. That night, in frustration, he whispered to himself, "If fate really exists, prove it to me." Little did he know, fate was about to answer him in the most unexpected way. The next day, Aarav received a letter. It was from a well-known business tycoon, Mr. Rajan Mehta. The letter invited him to an exclusive entrepreneurs meet. Confused and skeptical, Aarav attended the event, unsure of what to expect. As he entered the grand hall, he was overwhelmed by the sight of successful entrepreneurs, investors, and visionaries. He felt out of place, but just as he was about to leave, an elderly man in a gray suit approached him. "You look like someone with a storm inside," the man said with a gentle smile. Aarav hesitated but then replied, "I've worked hard for years, yet I keep failing. I feel like fate is against me." The old man chuckled. "Fate does not work against you, my boy. It works for you. The problem is we don't always see it." Aarav was intrigued. "How?" The old man leaned in. "Let me tell you a story. Many years ago," the old man began, "there was a young man named Samir. He too was ambitious, hardworking, and determined to succeed. He started a business, poured his soul into it. But it failed. He tried again, failed again. Each time he felt fate had cursed him. One day, in his darkest moment, he found himself at a train station, contemplating giving up everything. Just then, an old lady dropped her bag. Instinctively, he bent down to help her. She smiled and said, "Thank you, young man. May fate guide you well." Little did he know, that small act of kindness changed everything. The old lady was the mother of a renowned investor. A week later, Samir received a call from a company interested in his ideas. That investor believed in him and funded his new venture. Within 5 years, Samir built one of the biggest companies in the country. That man, the old man paused, looking into Aarav's eyes, was me. Fate had tested me, shaped me, and led me to that moment. Every failure was a redirection, not a rejection. Aarav sat in stunned silence. He realized something profound. Maybe fate wasn't against him. Maybe every struggle, every failure, every delay was leading him somewhere he couldn't yet see. That night, he didn't sleep. Instead, he reflected on his past failures, and for the first time, he saw a pattern. Every setback had taught him something valuable. Every rejection had redirected him to something better. With renewed determination, Aarav decided to give his dreams one last shot. But this time, instead of fighting fate, he chose to trust it. 6 months later, Aarav's startup was struggling again. He needed funding, but every investor had turned him down. Just when he was about to give up, he remembered the story of Samir. That evening, as he walked home, he saw an old man struggling with his grocery bags. Without hesitation, Aarav helped him. They got talking, and the man asked Aarav about his dreams. Aarav shared his vision, his failures, and his belief in fate. The old man smiled. "I like your spirit, young man. Meet me at my office tomorrow." The next morning, Aarav discovered that the old man was none other than Mr. Rajan Mehta, the same business tycoon who had invited him to the event months ago. Rajan not only invested in Aarav's business, but also mentored him. Within 2 years, Aarav's company became one of the fastest-growing startups in the country. Standing in his new office, Aarav looked at the city below and whispered, "Fate never failed me. I just failed to trust it." As the old man finished his story, The young man sitting beside him on the park bench had tears in his eyes. "So, you're saying fate is always working in our favor?" The old man smiled. "Fate is like the wind. You may not always understand its direction, but if you trust it and set your sails right, it will always take you where you are meant to be." The young man nodded, understanding now that every struggle, every failure, every moment of doubt was simply fate, preparing him for something greater. And with that, he stood up, ready to embrace his destiny, because in the end, fate does not work against us. It works for us, if only we trust it.